tech touches everyone today, right? At a business level and personal level. So lots of questions. I'm sure you get on tech and some from us too today. See, according to Economic Times, India accounts for about 50% of the world's global capability centers. And most of the Fortune 1000 companies have their GCCs here. And this has, in a way, given us a huge equity over time. With hyper automation, with generative I think the widespread prediction is that many centers will face price value challenges. In fact, ICICI Securities have said that 48% of GCCs are planning to reduce their headcount. I mean, how are technology companies viewing this? What new skills or aspects are being developed to, in a way, keep India ahead of the value food chain?
So I think firstly, why are there so many GCCs coming to India is because I think we all globally recognize that India is the tech talent and the tech hub of the world. And, also in that number, if there are global organizations that strive for diversity, we are also the highest producer of women in STEM talent in the world. Unfortunately, if you look at some of the data, it's declining, but it's still the largest number in the world. As far as hyper-automation and Gen AI is concerned, I think, what you said in your introduction, which was man-made technology, the operative word there is actually man-made. So while I think that there will be some jobs which will go through a certain evolution, in the world of Gen AI, I think there will be new jobs which will get created. So there is, if you're thinking that they will be reducing headcount, it's perhaps for a certain segment of jobs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that overall that opportunity is going to come down. In fact, I think it's going to grow. And these inflection points in technology have been a part of our evolution time and again. I mean, back in the 70s, when the calculator came, everybody was so scared that why would kids need to learn math? And then we sort of evolved a system of using them. Cut to a few generations later, and you had the search engine. And everybody was like, oh my God, now if you can get all the information online, how would people consume and access information? And I think there was a certain evolution that took place. Then came, the iPods, remember those? And then, of course, iPhone, and everything went on your fingertips. And I think it evolved a certain consumer. Similarly, I think that now with Gen AI, and you yourself said that it's impacting the individual much more at the moment. It's the way we are using it and interacting it in all walks of life. And we're also figuring out a way to evolve around it. So I do think that there will be a certain evolution of jobs, and sometimes the skills take a while to catch up. I mean, our educational institutions also have a lot of catching up to do. But skills around data engineering, skills around cybersecurity, skills around just IoT, and very specific skills and will have to be evolved. And organizations do a lot of upskilling, but it's going to have to be educational institutions upwards, if India has to stay ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, if 50% of the GCCs are housed here, we definitely need to do and evolve much faster. In fact, that leads me to the second question. India fell behind in the semiconductor chips race. And almost every electronic item that you have needs a chip, right? In the semiconductor, I mean, speed matters, quick R&D, partnering with academia, support from government, all is needed. It's really vital. The Prime Minister during India Techade, which happened this March, laid down a vision for chips for Viksit Bharat. I mean, HCL is the largest semiconductor company in the country. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. But so how are you seeing HCL play, the semiconductor and the chips game, and how does India play in the growth story?
So, of course, in the universe of HCL, we do a lot more on semiconductor design and actually working with organizations all over the world. I was in Taiwan last year and I spent about a week there, and I was speaking to a lot of leaders and meeting a lot of companies. And we see the might of Taiwan today as it stands. But, I was talking to one of the chairmans, and he said that, but it took Taiwan 40 years to get here. And it wasn't just this, and so much of it had to do with just the way skills evolved. So just as you said that, I think that we have a lot of catching up to do. Luckily, technology will shrink that time of catching up. But again, investment in R&D, investment in skills, it just can't be, spearheaded by industry. Significant investments are needed in R&D, and that's in institutions, at the government level, much more. Because if you look at, I sit on the Dean's Advisory Council at MIT Engineering, and we have our own engineering colleges in India. Even today, the majority of students, engineering students, are actually opting for computer science. But for semiconductor design, you need students opting for very different streams of engineering. So it requires a significant amount of investment of creating intellectual capital, faculty, R&D, but to create that workforce also of that caliber. Yeah.
Okay, if you go onto the HCL website, one can see that HCL actually has 2,000 patents driving innovation, which, as per you, are the top 2 innovation that you think will propel HCL. And just so that we get the tech part of it, if it can be explained in really layman language, so that we all understand the bigness of it.
Okay, so firstly, I am not an engineer, so I am a layman. Okay, so that
works for us.
That is completely. I can't really share those patents with you because a lot of those are projects that we do for our customers. So they're in our secure centers. But something a little not as techy, but I think looking at the way India is evolving, it's very important to understand how the talent landscape is evolving. So if we were to rewind back, prior to 2020, so pre-COVID, you had a lot of talent in your big cities. So, even the GCCs today, but even all of us IT services companies all together, you had centers in Bangalore, you had centers in Chennai, Pune, Hyderabad, Noida, big cities. And I think the evolution that has happened after COVID is that a lot of talent has actually moved back to tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, wherever they come from. We all together are struggling with getting people back to work at all times, and a lot of people actually work remotely. Subsequently, cities have also just gotten that much more expensive to live in. So design thinking the talent landscape and design thinking where people are going to come from and how they're going to work is something that, you can't not talk about it. So I think we only talk about it in numbers because you talk about it like these many people are not coming and what is the productivity and what is the Gen AI. But as long as you're dependent on people to do work and, and that skill is evolving, where they deliver from also matters. So I think design thinking the way people work in organizations, looking at tier 2 or tier 3 cities. I mean, one of the things that we did 2018 onwards was we opened 4 campuses in tier 2 cities. So we have a campus in Lucknow, in Madurai, in Vijayawada, and in Nagpur. And today, we have much higher attendance in those campuses than we do in the prime. We also have much better diversity ratios in those campuses because it's safer for women, they're closer to work, it's easier to do night shifts, it's more flexibility. So I think that looking at that is an innovation that has truly propelled HCL. It really has. We've got each of these centers is north of 10,000 people, and we're an overall population of 220,000 employees. So the more these grow, I think you will be able to access talent much closer to where they are.
That's wonderful. Okay, considering this is Leadership Awards, let me ask you a question on just leadership. The landscape of leadership has evolved significantly in the last 15 years, right? Earlier, leaders were focused on growth, returns. They maintained a steady, top-down approach where control was key. And employees were just often grateful to have a job, to be employed. Yeah, today leadership, besides growth, navigate whole rapid changes, focus on purpose, address talent shortage, prioritize diversity inclusion, foster open communication, empowerment initiatives, etc., etc. The change in leadership style in a founder-driven organization is even tougher, right? Tell us about your experience and just the fun and games while you were doing the transition.
There were no fun in games in that transition. But I mean, again, I think I have to give full credit to Shiv because, and that's my father. I'm just referred to him in first name, but but yeah, I call him Daddy. It's not that I call him Shiv, but I think the evolution of the preparedness of leadership transition in HCL probably started almost 15 years prior, because when HCL Tech was listed and founded, Shiv was the CEO. And within 3 or 4 years, he already transitioned himself out of the CEO position. And then we had, and since then till now, we've had 3 CEO transitions. We've had 2 CFO transitions. So I think just maturing an organization to have those transitions is it in itself pretty phenomenal. It prepares the board very differently. And when he transitioned out from the role of chair to myself, I had already been on the board since 2013. And I'd been at HCL since 2008. And when he transitioned out of the role of chair, he really transitioned out of HCL Tech. So I got appointed chair, and he also left the board. So I think that is, I guess, a mark of a mature organization, and hopefully of trust, to leave it in our hands.
So, not sure how many of you know that Roshni actually majored in communication with a focus on TV, radio, and film. I know you yet feel passionate because you are producing content yet. What cross-sectorial possibilities are you seeing between the new tech trends and the information, communication, and entertainment, what we call an ICE industry? And are there any patents in the ICE industry which we can all
I'm sure
dive
there
into?
are. I'm sure there are. No, I think it's a lot of the trends in this particular area is again to do with a lot of the companies today, I guess in India also, looking at their data and data around consumer consumption, data around content, data around usability, how people are consuming. Are they consuming on their devices, or are they consuming on different platforms? I'm sure that I've I'm not part of that industry. I stopped being in film very long time ago. But I think that all those have a huge impact on technology. I think, technology has a big role to play in their data strategy and in their data infrastructure. And in fact, from our universities, they are one of the largest employers of really top tech talent because they need really bright people to look at data analytics and stuff like that they're going to need as they evolve their own platforms.
Any advice? This is, they're all leaders sitting in. You won Business Leader of the Year. To the men, to the women, any advice that you would like to give them?
No. I am not giving anybody any advice. Have a little faith in young daughters. They're not too bad.
So thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Business Leader of the Year, Roshni Narang Malhotra. Thank you very much. Oh, that was wonderful.